So welcome to the fourth installment of our New England Pest Management Business Series. For those of you who do not know me, my name is Adam Karachi, and I'm the chair of the membership committee for the New England Pest Management Association. If you missed any of the first sessions and you signed up for the entire series, a recording of the webinar will be made available for you to watch. This will also be recorded for you to watch after we're completed. Just a couple of notes. Nominations for the Scholarship, Professional of the Year, and Woman of Excellence Awards are due by February 1st. I will drop a link in the chat. If you'd like to nominate anyone, that would be great. And lastly, watch out for our next session, which is on February 19th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, to hear from both Stuart and Chris Oust about the transitioning of a family business and mergers and acquisitions. If you're part of a family-owned business and want to know how to transition to the next generation, or maybe you're considering selling, the Oust Group is a top-notch group that would be more than happy to help you in those transitions. Now on to the topic for today. We have two amazing speakers who are going to talk on a really important topic, which is hiring. I feel like I can assume that anyone watching this webinar has either had hiring problems, recruitment problems, either currently, in the past, and if you haven't, you will in the future. So today, both Liz and Randy will not only discuss hiring, but more importantly, how you can hire veterans to be a part of your business. Liz Bicer is the Director of Workforce Development for National Pest Management Association, and Randy Bell is the Program Director for Boots to Roots, located in Maine, which helps active duty military members, veterans, and spouses find meaningful work and put roots down in Maine. With that short introduction, I'll turn it over to Liz and Randy.
Adam.
Thanks, Adam. All right, let's get this going here. I know that as I shared earlier with Adam and Randy, that I know enough to help people point them in the right direction. And Randy is the expert, not only from a professional standpoint, but also from an experience standpoint. So this is going to be a great session. So thank you all for joining us today. Just quick check, making sure you can see my screen. Okay, awesome, because I never really know. All righty, so let's get started. That's us. And so what we're going to review today, sort of giving you an overview. Certainly an hour does not give this topic justice. And so we're going to give you some highlights, some points, some things to take a look at. If you have any questions, we'll certainly provide some additional resources for you to dig into. And both Randy and I are available for any questions and conversations after you view this. So we're going to kind of give a high-level overview of the value of military talent. The original title to this was focused on veterans. It's shifted to military because when you engage with, whether it's a military veteran or even an active duty service member or a military spouse, it really encompasses a lot of different roles and people, including their families. And Randy will dive into that a little bit later on, the support that Boots to Roots provides, not only the service member, veteran, but also their family. Randy will give a deep dive into Boots to Roots and their activities and how to get involved. I will give us an overview of our NPMA SkillBridge partnership, which is endeavoring to connect our current NPMA member companies with active duty service members who are seeking civilian work after they separate from the military. And then if anybody has any questions, or certainly you can ask throughout this program, and we're happy to answer them. All right, so like I said, I'll kick it off with some things to think about. We know that there is value in military talent for sure. If you think about a service member's journey, they learn a new trade, a new leadership skills. They are expected to take on many roles and responsibilities and act in a high level of performance and ethics. So if you think about those terms, that really crosswalks nicely to all of the qualities that we're seeking in our pest control, not only technicians, but also everyone that works within your company. So it's a natural fit to seek military talent. Let's see here. Randy, can you give us a little bit more insight into the qualities that service members bring?
Yeah, happy to do so. Thanks, Liz, and thanks, Adam and team, for having me on today. I'm really excited about this. What I'd like to do is share a little bit about what we're talking about, what Liz mentioned, and then if it's okay, I'd like to also share 10 transitions truths for veterans and military spouses and active duty military that are exiting the workforce that I think will be beneficial to the people that are going to be watching this call and employers at large, if that's okay, Liz.
Absolutely.
So why should you hire a veteran, military spouse, or someone coming off active duty? So veterans and military spouses have excellent work ethics. They possess unique skill sets that are valued across all industries. They thrive in situations where they can utilize their leadership and problem-solving skills and have learned to be very adaptable throughout their careers. Veterans and military spouses make hardworking, dedicated, trustworthy, and trainable employees who will excel in environments where they feel valued for their contributions. When issues inevitably arise, they address problems directly and respectfully to quickly find a solution that helps accomplish their employer's goals. I believe that is completely true. I put that together myself. I served for 23 years and I've worked with all different kinds of folks all across the globe. And I would argue that the United States military probably has the best leadership development apparatus in the world, based upon institutional knowledge and hundreds of years of service and adapting to the needs and threats the nation faces. So they invest in their people a lot, and it makes them. They may not be an industry expert, but I would argue also that good employers can hire for the right attitude and train the skills, right? And then that's what we're talking about. So additionally, if I may, Liz, and I think it's valuable, I'd like to just highlight 10 quick truths, maybe to debunk any myths or assumptions that might be out there to any employer or anybody on this call that perhaps isn't too familiar with the military. Either they haven't served or what have you. So would that be okay?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay, so here's number one. So the military is a large organization with over 1 million service members. Their service provides them with a wide range of different experiences, allowing for diverse backgrounds. They are not all the same, but here are some trends. So over 80% of service members are not in combat related jobs. They could be logisticians, law enforcement, HR professionals, tradesmen, mechanics, medical professionals, IT cyber technicians, safety experts, truck drivers, fuel handlers, cooks, etc. There's hundreds of different, you may have heard the term military occupational specialties or ratings, whatever their job is in the military. There's many. So many people out there think that folks that serve in the military are always in combat related roles. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but it's not the overwhelming majority. So I wanted to share that. Okay. Large deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan have been over for 10 years. The overwhelming majority, like I said, who have serviced during that time did not see combat. This may be the first civilian job for a veteran. It is a new experience for them. Whether they serve 4 years, 23 like me, or 30 plus years, if they join right out of high school or right out of college, there's a good probability that it could be their first civilian job. Not necessarily a bad thing, but it's definitely new for them, right? Here's a big one. Veterans seek purpose from their employment. They want to know how they fit into their organization and what they're doing matters. That is on the employers and the leadership of the organization to ensure exists, because they military folks and veterans are motivated by meaningful work, i.e., what is their purpose, right? Let's see here. Veterans may be reluctant to ask questions and seek help. They may not understand some aspects of working in the civilian sector in a field they are not familiar with. Having another veteran within your organization to talk to can be helpful for onboarding and retention, which is kind of applicable to what we're talking about today. So if the National Pest Management Association or any of the subsidiaries that belong here or anywhere else have existing veterans in their organization, a great strategy that you can employ is to kind of make them, champions or ambassadors or whatever you want to call them. So that way, an incoming person coming out of the military may have an easier pathway to start interacting with a new experience and help lower that anxiety by talking to someone that can speak the same language, that has similar experiences. Adam, I see you have a hand up. I don't know how you want to moderate questions. Liz, do you want me to do that, Liz?
Go ahead.
Go ahead,
So
Adam.
just on that, Randy, do you think it would be beneficial to have a current veteran that works at your company be some part of the interview process, if it's another veteran or military personnel coming in?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, why not? I would definitely leverage that because there's going to be unknowns and insights that you can glean based upon someone that you already have on your team that can help maybe perhaps explain what it is they're saying, maybe perhaps say, hey, listen, this could really work here, a million examples. So I would say that absolutely, if you have veterans on your workforce and you have an interest in hiring military talent, I would absolutely involve them and leverage them, at least to the point where you feel like you know enough. But honestly, I don't think it could hurt whatsoever because um, like I said, it's gonna provide, or should I say, it's gonna remove an obstacle to entry that exists. It's nothing that you created. It's just someone doing something
Mhm.
new for the first time that's already nervous, that's got a tons of knowledge, skills, and experience. But yeah, long answer to your question is that if I were you and I was in charge of making those decisions, I would do that. And I would
Absolutely.
just
Yeah.
frame that up with whoever that person or persons are to make sure they're aligned with what it is you're trying to do. Right.
And also to add to that, so if for those companies that don't have veterans or spouses or familiarity, reach out to your state unit, your Pest Vet state unit in New England. They are an active group of volunteers working for you to help make those connections and for you to learn from as well. So please use that resource. Um, the other piece, and we'll drop these resources into the follow-up, but there's a number of military occupational code, like sort of crosswalks, like what does this job mean and how does that translate in the civilian sector? Having that translator, if they're on your team, that's the best. So they can relate it to your work and your company. But if you don't, there are a number of tools out there that you can use too.
Sure. Another thing you can do as well, like I don't know if your organization has systems in place where you know who your veterans are or if they have to self-identify. But I say that because some organizations they kind of self-organize within themselves for what's called an employee resource group or a
Mhm.
veterans resource group. It's nothing that you need to, get permissions or legality. It's just a folks that self-organize and they can add value to your organization as a force multiplier and kind of help each other come along. So I've seen successful companies kind of harness that. And if folks are serious about hiring and retaining military talent, I think it's important to acknowledge that population within your organization, just as you would any other group that you want
Mhm.
to make sure that they know that they're seen and heard and valued. So I offer that up for consideration as well. There's no, you must do it this way. That doesn't exist. It's just about an intent and saying, hey, is this something we want to explore? And for all we know, maybe there's somebody there already. It's like, yeah, I'll do that. I don't mind. And then you can grow that kind of internally. Just something to think about as well.
Yeah.
Um, so veterans want a challenge. They seek pathways for growth, education, and new experience. This might be perhaps one of the biggest things. Um, if a person, especially a veteran, is considering coming to your company, they they want to be able to, and I imagine this is the same for most people, they want to be able to envision themselves there in some form of pathway. I don't think there's anybody out there that says, hey, I want to come in. There may be, I shouldn't broad brush it, but there may be, hey, I want to come in and I want to come into this entry level job and this is what I want to do for the next 40 years. That's not likely, right? And people, but they want to improve, they want to grow, they want to develop. So structures within organizations that you could any employer could articulate, like, hey, here's kind of what we have as our let's just call it a growth and development roadmap or ladder, whatever that looks like, or just being able to explain, like, hey, if you join our team, this is some of the pathways that you can take where you can apply your knowledge, skills, and abilities and grow within the organization. Because I mean, you guys know, most times, most organizations promote from within because that's smart and it's investing in your own people. After that, it's a referral with an organization like mine, which I'll talk about later, or perhaps now we're just posting job advertisements on the internet, basically a cold approach. It can work, but it's probably not going to be as effective as some of the other options. So anyway, the point there meaning, like, if someone's coming out of the service where great efforts and structures have been put in place to ensure people can work hard, have opportunities for professional and personal development, and excel and get promoted. All those things exist. So people can see like, hey, I can do that. I can get there. This is my future. It exists. If a company doesn't have something like that or the leadership there that values that, it's a high probability that military talent's not going to join your organization. Right. So I share that with the folks watching this call. So veterans also gain experience in a variety of roles while serving. They are trained in specific field, but must develop a range of skills in related and unrelated fields to be successful. I think this is really important because folks that are getting out of the service, I'll use this call as an example. Highly unlikely that somebody in the service has been trained to the industry standard of professional pest management, because it's just not something that these service members would do. Doesn't mean they can't do it or don't want to do it. It's just not an existing job, and it's probably outsourced to perhaps organizations like this, which is fine. But why it matters is because although they've been sent to school, they've worked in the role in the job that they've been assigned to do, and they've developed skill sets in that. There's all this other stuff that's happening around them that they have to learn and get thrown into and become proficient at, because failure is not really an option. So this can be very beneficial to employers, especially when they're trying to onboard a new hire that's unfamiliar with industry standards, because you could essentially surge their competence provided you have a good training program, and they'll pick it up quick. One thing military folks, aside from many other things, are good at is being able to learn quickly because they have to. So anyway, I share that for consideration as well. So I think what employers could take away from that is, if you have a military member that doesn't exactly have very specific industry experience in what you're hiring for, I go back to my previous comments, like hire for attitude and train the skill, right? I believe that. I will not profess what employers need to do, but with the war for talent being what it is, I think it'd be wise, right?
I think you're preaching to the choir here for sure.
Yep. So I also a couple more, and then I'll stop talking. I know I'm putting a lot of stuff out there, but I think it's
No, it's good
important.
stuff.
So new veterans may have required VA appointments in the months after leaving the military. These should be scheduled in advance and are a vital part of the transition process. So employers that are working with someone specifically that's transitioning out of the military, meaning they're retiring, they're separating, medical, whatever the reason is, they're getting out. So those folks, in most cases, may have appointments that are very important that they need to attend in order for them to get properly transitioned and moving in the direction of their next journey of their life. So I would just encourage employers to take that under consideration, especially in the first few months after their separation, or especially during a skill bridge, which I know you're going to talk about, Liz. That's really the time where those things are going to be occurring. And an employer that was rigid on not allowing those folks to attend those very important appointments could potentially backfire, and you could lose trust with that individual, because that's really important. It doesn't mean it's going to last forever. It's just a few months as they exit, right? Number 10, veterans are loyal. If they feel valued, they'll want to maintain your organization. There's tons and tons of research out there, heaps of stuff. Most people don't quit their jobs. They usually quit their boss. So I believe that. So leadership matters. I'm sure National Pest Management Organization is a phenomenal organization, and the leadership is there. And if I believe that any organization that has good leadership that invests in their people will sustain, and their people will stay. And I know we're going to talk about that a little later. So not all the above truths apply to every veteran and military spouse. Each is unique and has different experiences. Employing veterans and military spouses will benefit your company and provide you all with the opportunity to apply their skills and help the veterans learn the extent of what they have to offer beyond their service. So they're just some of the really important things that I like to make sure I foot stomp and share with employers. And another thing too that I think is really important that I'll share is that the image of a veteran and then getting a job, in my mind, and I'm not going to get too preachy here, but it should not be, hey, I'm doing a veteran a favor by giving him a job. That is the wrong answer, and that is the wrong approach. Yeah. My personal opinion, based upon my experience and time serving. What it is that I would argue and offer that employers should want to hire them because they're going to add value to their organization. We're not doing a veteran a favor. They might be just doing the employer a favor. if we can put our ego aside, right?
Yeah.
But anyway, I know there's folks out there that are struggling, and there are programs of record that are designed to help them. But my message there is that for the folks out there that hear the word veteran and an image in their mind comes to a park bench with someone sleeping that needs to be saved, that is the wrong image in your mind. When it comes to workforce attraction and retention, my thoughts on that. So back to you, Liz. I just wanted to make sure I talked about those important things, and happy to talk more about that. But I want to give some other folks a chance to talk.
No, that's fantastic. And yes to all of that. And to add, you mentioned military spouses, and from what I've learned, I am not a military spouse, but I like to talk to everybody and learn that many of them, they have similar skills and needs that you just described, because even though they aren't technically enlisted, or they're not serving as in that capacity, they are serving. So they are serving alongside
Oh yeah,
that military, either vet or active duty, and they bring the same skills and perhaps more.
yeah,
You can imagine, if you're deployed or if you need to move around because they're being reassigned, having all those skills and being adaptable, flexible from the spouse perspective is also one of those qualities certainly that our industry values. And
sure.
a few of our companies that I've spoken with, it's a trust thing to allow someone to work remotely. But a few spouses that I've engaged with, they've started working with a pest control company in a role. Their spouse then was reassigned to another location or duty station. They had to move, but then they worked it out, and it's working swimmingly.
That's excellent.
In
I'm
variety of
glad you
different
brought that
roles.
up because
Yeah.
I've been married for basically for my military career, 18 of my years. I've been married with my family. I'm still married with my kids now. And to your point, and it's really important that you brought that up. So I would also agree with you. I would say that perhaps even more adaptable and resilient and capable than the military member themselves is the military spouse. I spent over 11 years away from my family, day for day at sea. That's a long time.
Mm-hmm.
And we moved. It's common and average for the military family, depending upon how long they stay in, to move every 2 to 3 years. We moved over 7 times across the globe,
Mm-hmm.
right? Many of those times I wasn't even there. So for an employer listening right now, thinking about like, hey, I'm looking at this resume, and this spouse hasn't worked in 20 years. Yeah, they have. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they have. Let me tell you what they've been doing. That's not technically a job on paper. They've kept that family organized in arduous and new conditions. And anybody listening to this should get this. The kids, the deployments, essentially being a single parent in a very not to mention the stress they're dealing with. So what I want to say on that is that military spouses make phenomenal employees. I don't even like to call them soft skills. I like to call them professional skills, those
Mm-hmm.
transferable skills, because there's nothing soft about it.
Yeah.
And they can seriously add value to your organization. And if you're wondering like, well, where could they fit in? Basically, you give them a problem, they'll figure out how to fix it. Right.
Yeah.
That's what I would say to that.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yep.
Very cool. Adam, I'm going to put you on the spot for a sec. Let's see, what's the next thing? So I know you've hosted a skill bridge, a current active duty service member. So, and you may have other stories or things to share, but what makes Pest End a military friendly or ready company in your estimation?
So for us, I mean, we've been hiring military personnel for a while. And similar to what Randy was saying, even me, when we first started trying to get into it, it was, okay, is there going to be impacts from the war, or how are they going to be mentally? And that was just such a closed-minded view. And then once I started having more of them in here, they're dedicated. Their skill set is unbelievable. They already come trained. So yeah, you have to train them on how to kill bugs. Other than that, you really don't have to do anything. And what we've also found is on like Veterans Day, we'll take all of our veterans and we'll host a lunch. And just getting to see them interact with each other. Now you have some that are in their 60s and some that are in their 20s, but just the way that camaraderie is still there, even throughout the different branches of the military. So, I never served, but being in those rooms and seeing how they interact is great. And you can tell that they lean on each other for support and just to talk about things. So I think not only looking to hire them, but going that extra step. And as you just said, Liz, understanding that your company is a veteran-friendly company. What does that mean? Getting them together, showing that you have the support for them, whether it's an appointment at the VA or anything else that's going on. How can we help you? Because 90% of the time they're going to be amazing. And just like any other, employee you have, give that extra 10% of the time to make sure that they're taken care of and have what they need.
Yeah, 100%. I just thought of something. Can I bring it up, Liz?
Yeah, yeah.
So another really big, 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 huge thing that employers can do, especially when someone is getting out of the service, and this is a big one. So everybody tune into this one. So a big thing that comes up is where are they going to live, right? Now, if a person is within inside of 12 months of getting out, unless they can show proof of future employment, no matter how much money they got in the bank, no matter how good their credit is, they're not getting lending. It's not happening. So
Mhm.
as an employer, right, that can control when the offer goes out, when they accept it, and when the start date is, you could relatively create a clear path for someone to come and work for your organization, right? I'll use Maine as an example, just real quick. Say someone's living in, I don't know, uh, Japan, like I was, right? I was on my ship, I was on patrol. I got out of the military off of active duty on patrol on a ship thousands of miles away using the organization I work for now. But here's the deal. I thought I was going to be good to go, money in the bank, working, this, that, and the other. I was like, man, it didn't matter. I said I had to show proof of future employment. The organization I work with now, since I spoke with the owner, the leader, he extended me an offer months out before the even start date even happened.
Mm,
8 months. 8 months. But what did I do? I showed that to my lender and I got VA lending and I'm living in the house that I am now with my family.
wow.
So think about that, right?
Yeah.
For anybody out there that can control that, I would encourage them to at least consider the fact that just because you have a need now and someone is not within 90 days of arrival, you're more than likely going to have that opening a year from now too, right? How dedicated do you think a person would be if you gave them an offer letter 8 months out? They're going to work their butts off for you. Something to think about. I'm trying to educate employers about that. That's
Yeah.
a solution that they can solve.
That's amazing. Yeah. I'd never even thought of that at
Yep.
all. And that's definitely, I mean, not to put a too fine a line between friendly and ready, but that's definitely a ready strategy. So the
Yeah.
friendly things are the nice to haves, the
Sure.
recognition, the dinners, the get together, those you
All good
should have
stuff.
those. The
Yep.
ready part is the hard part, and
Yep.
that's where the mind shift needs to happen about your
Absolutely.
policies. You mentioned about when they're transitioning out, like up appointments and any other things that they need to take care of to wrap up their service. And there
Yep.
might be some additional things they need, appointments they need to maintain while they're employed as well. So being flexible, providing that open door and having them be able to be honest, like, look, I need to meet with this group or I need
Yeah.
this. And to kind of translate that, what you do for veterans, for spouses, will make your entire workforce or workplace a better place as well.
Sure.
All
Sure.
your employees will benefit from that mindset.
Absolutely. And it's like, we'll talk about this a little bit more too. I know, but anybody getting out of the service or even a veteran, especially if they're moving to a new location, it's very dynamic. They could have spent an entire career in the service. Now they're doing something new. So it's not just getting a job. It's an entire lifestyle change. It's an entire identity change.
Mhm.
With the longer they serve, the stronger that is, right? So it's understanding that and having some empathy and being flexible, like you said, Liz, is huge, especially in the beginning stages, because you want to talk about strengthening a relationship and building trust. That's when it happens. That's when it'll happen. And if it's rigid, if it's too rigid, and just cannot fit in to that dynamic time frame, they're gonna go elsewhere, as they
Yeah,
probably should.
yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
And actually, as we're having this great conversation, a few other things popped in my mind. Someone had asked me, "Well, what can we know, generally speaking, what our not our civilian employees can learn from those who have served and continue to serve? What can they learn from our civilian employees?" And through some of our SkillBridge experiences, there's a few things I was like, "Wow, okay, this is interesting." So work-life balance. Um, Probably not a lot of work-life balance when you're active duty.
Yep.
Um, So coming over to the civilian side, that is sort of tipping that scale to
Yeah.
the middle at least, and helping them understand that you can do this, or you can ask for
Yeah.
flexibility.
Yeah. That's
Um,
a big shift over for many folks because everything is so mission driven, which doesn't mean it's a bad thing,
mhm,
but approaches and standards and timeliness is as you can imagine and very, very, rigid. It's the military, right?
yeah.
So I think another thing that it's really good, and I'm still learning this too, working with civilians, is just working on having patience, right? So like when I exited the service, I mean, for the last 10 years of my time in the Navy, not to make this about me, just as an example,
Mhm.
I served as a E9, as the highest enlisted pay grade in the Navy, and I had 3,000 workforce on my last ship. It's a big responsibility, right? So whether or not I was being too aggressive or too forceful, just due to the nature of my job for that long, when I said things or needed things, they happened instantly. And I was used to that because that's what the job demanded and required. It wasn't
Mhm.
a me thing, it was just the nature of the structure. So when you get folks that are coming out that are used to being in, you know, it is very common and normal for people in the military when they have a phone call or send an email, they expect a response within a day. That is normal and expected. Now, when you transition out, it doesn't always happen that way, and it doesn't mean that people don't care about what you're saying, or that they're not involved or engaged. They just don't communicate in that fashion, which can be off-putting. So I try to teach and train our folks as they get out as well about what that is like and how to communicate to not damage relationships based upon how things used to be. Now, there's things that you can add, but I'm really glad you brought up what to learn as well, because they're
Mhm.
they're they're learning as well, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And just another quick example. Again, nothing's bad here. It's just didn't think of it. Um, a service member, maybe I don't want to assume, but had a lot of responsibility. The job was you had to be exact and you can't be wrong. When he was training for pest control, he took that skill set and that mindset to the job, and the employer was flummoxed, like, why is it taking so long to evaluate something?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
why is he spending so much time on the job? And we know that time is money in our industry.
Sure. Sure.
You need to be right. You can't just make stuff up or just breeze by.
Yeah.
But the expectation was he wouldn't spend the amount of time he did. And so that
Hmm.
was a lesson learned there to help say, okay, this is what's acceptable. I
Yeah.
understand. And it was hard. It was a challenge for both sides, but once they figured out what the challenge was, they were able to communicate and start working on it.
Yeah, that's good. That's good because from the sounds of things, that person really wanted to do a good job.
Yeah.
Attention to detail was through the roof. The job was
Hmm.
probably really important to them,
Yeah.
and they wanted to make a good impression. And then I'm glad someone in the organization noticed it and was like, "What's going on here?" And not assuming that someone was being lazy or not doing their
Yeah.
work, but to get a little deeper and say, "Why is this happening?" And then
Hmm.
through a constructive dialogue, it was like you said, it was uncovered. Like, okay, let me help you a little bit. Here's the standard. Here's the
Yeah.
expectation. You're doing this, you should probably do this. Just a little bit of that goes a long way. And I'm glad your organization does that. Now, other companies might just not say anything and provide zero feedback and then just let somebody go in 6 months. That's not the employee's fault. That's the leadership's fault,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Another personal opinion there.
Yep. No,
Yep.
I think you'd find agreement.
I have
Yep.
a question, I think kind of that would go into this strategy. So obviously when you're in the military, there's multiple different ranks and positions in what you're doing. Randy, have you seen that certain ranks would equate to better situations? For example, I bring a person in that maybe they were managing or overseeing 30, 50, 100 guys in the military. Now I want them to be a tech and they're bored out of their mind because really they should be in some type of management position. So is there any type of, if you see someone has X rank, they're probably way too overqualified, even if they've never been in your industry to have this job, and you should look more here. Or maybe it's not right away, but they're going to get bored. So you have to start knowing that within a year, you better have them in a management position, like that type of situation.
Yeah, that's a really good point because the majority of the teammates that I work with, range between 10 and 25 years of service. They have families, they have swing zones, they have expertise in certain fields. they sometimes naturally gravitate toward that type of work because it's comfortable and it's what they know. However, a lot of times people getting out of the service, they want to do something completely new. Let's use the organization as an example. Say if someone wanted to come in entry level and was a fairly senior person in the military, you might look at their resume and be like, holy smokes, man, there's no way this person, if we hire them, there's no way they're staying. I know there's people out there that think that way. And they might just shelf them because they think it's going to be a waste of their time, either based on previous experiences or their own biases, unknown or not. It's real. But a lot of people want to try something new. And if the company culture is there, and this is a great thing to happen during the interview, I would say that if you see a resume, even if you think that a person is overqualified, they wouldn't have applied if they weren't interested. Believe me, they know they're overqualified if they're putting in for an entry level job, right? They know that. And they could just perhaps want to work there and see what that company has to offer. And if there's a conversation that happens, put all the cards on the table, it would be very much appreciated. Frank, candid conversations, and then say, hey, I noticed on here, and for any employer that has this thing that they may be holding back on talking to these folks, just bring it up in the interview. It's like, hey, you look pretty qualified. This job involves this. Tell me why does you think you want to do that? And why I would ask that as the hiring manager. I would want to know that up front, get a good feel on that. And that way a person could, perhaps debunk their own assumptions or be like, hey, you know what, you were right. Maybe this isn't the right place for you. But I think there's a place that you might fit in well with too. Not everybody's gonna end up working at your place or whatever the case may be. But I think that constructive dialogue is really important. I always encourage employers to work real hard, and I know they have busy jobs and I don't know how much stuff they're reviewing, but when it comes to veterans in military, I'll just advocate for them, saying that if an application is made and the resume is enough to get your attention, but you're thinking like, nah, there's no way, they're overqualified, I would assume best intent, and I would have my staff have an interview and see if there's more to the story there. That's my recommendation.
Yeah. No, absolutely right. And this is great. I have an example here too. So one of our member companies, again, the person was active duty, went through Skill Bridge, trained as the technician role, which is a solo role, as Adam pointed out, except when you're training, you do shadow someone. So there is some interaction, but generally speaking, they're on their own. The company recognized that, like, hey, this person's management material, and it seems from my conversations, our members are challenged with, do we bring someone in from the outside as a manager because there's a trust issue? And if you're working with techs, I mean, it's a culture in and of itself, and they have to fit in and they have to be respected for their knowledge. So they took him, they trained him as a tech, and then they recognized that he built that rapport with the potential team, and his military experience and skills really shot him right up to management. And they said that's the fastest promotion they've ever made at
Yeah.
their company.
That's good. I see that happen all the time. And I encourage teammates, especially if they have this vision or expectation that they're going to directly transfer into an equivalent managerial role in an unknown company. It's highly unlikely because and not because it's bad. It's just because I kind of reflect and reframe it with them like, hey, if you serve 30 years in the military and you achieved a high rank, and that's great because you did the work, you were recognized by your company over these amount of years based upon your performance. Now you're introducing yourself to a brand new company that does not know you. They want to know you, but they need time to observe you and see you. And once again, I go to the leadership and the direct supervisors, say if they recognize that, I think it would behoove them. Just in this example, like you just gave, Liz, phenomenal example. Like, hey, yep, I'm a believer. Slap the table. Where are we going to put? Where are we going to put Adam? Right?
Yeah.
And in the language that I use with the teammates to help them recalibrate a little bit because they're being told lots of things from lots of different people. They're being told like, hey, you got to make this much money, don't settle for this, and blah blah blah. And everybody's driven by different reasons. But what I usually tell them, especially if they're coming to my neck of the woods and they're trying something new in a new company,
Literally.
yeah, sometimes you got to take a step down to step up. When you do that and you perform well and you're not recognized, move on, right?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
it.
Well, great. Well, here, so again, this is an overview, everybody. There's a lot more strategy
Sure.
and reach out. I did mention earlier that if you don't have veteran military folks on your team, definitely reach out to your New England Pest Vet unit for assistance. Just get involved, and you don't have to have served. You don't, they welcome everyone. They want to make sure that this community is strong and is supported no matter who you are, what your experiences have been. Another military friendly thing that we can do, or that we do as an association, is we nominate Pest Vet of the Year. So for those on your teams, they have to be currently employed by a pest control company. And here's some of the qualities that our committee is looking for. Please consider them and nominate them. Nominations are open now. They happen every year. So if you watch this a year from now or 2 years from now, it'll still be in early part of the year. So please consider nominating one of your team members. So Randy, tell us about Boots to Roots.
Sure. Thanks, Liz. And I'll keep it brief, but I really appreciate the opportunity to tell about my organization. So Boots to Roots. Boots to Roots was founded in 2016. We are a nonprofit organization, and our mission, like Adam spoke of when we began, is to assist transitioning active duty veterans and military spouses find meaningful work and settle in the state of Maine. So what makes us unique is that we are exclusively focused on folks that are not currently residing in the state of Maine. And we are working essentially via workforce attraction to bring these people here to meet Maine's workforce needs. The state of Maine has interesting conditions that exist that make our organization really beneficial. For example, there are no longer any large military bases in the state of Maine, and Maine has an aging workforce. As a matter of fact, it's the oldest state in the nation, which the average age is 48 years old. So by 2030, in accordance with Maine's economic development plan, Maine needs 75,000 workers. That's to factor in the 65,000 that are within the window of retirement and 10,000 more people to meet the needs. So when you got on average 200 to 250,000 people getting out of the military every year and entering the workforce, where are they going to go? Right? They're either going to stay where they're at because it's comfortable and they might be near a military organization that has infrastructure and enterprise potential employers right outside the gate. That's where 33% at least are going to do. The other third is probably going to return to where they're originally from or closer to family. Makes sense. And then the other third is kind of up for grabs, going to do their own research, depending upon which states or countries in the world best support a transition military member or a veteran based upon what the state provides. So how we fit in, right, is with those conditions that have been set, we essentially are facilitating the continuous and renewable pipeline of military talent to the state of Maine to meet those needs. The reason why this company started is because a senior Air Force officer back in the day, 2016 or so, got out, returned home to Maine, very experienced, fantastic career. But he faced some hiring challenges that he had no idea would have occurred. And after some time, what he determined is that why he was having so much difficulty is because his skills, knowledge, and experience was not being either translated or understood in a way that civilian hiring managers could understand and relate to their business. You'll find that happens more and more frequently the further you get away from the proverbial flagpole. The more farther away you get away from the military, more than likely the less people know about the military and how they can help their business. So he started Boots to Roots, and he formed it with one of the senior VPs at Bath Iron Works, which is a big employer in the state of Maine. And then Boots to Roots began. It started off with a small throughput, maybe 10 or 15 senior folks. Fast forward to today, from no paid employees to within the last 2 years, we now have a 5-person paid staff. We have volunteers representing every county in the state of Maine. We've helped over 360 people and their families move to the state of Maine since our inception. We're on our 8th consecutive year of growth. We are not a federal organization. We operate off of grants and donations. We're very agile, very adaptable. On any given day, we're helping over 100 people on various timelines, serving in all branches of service across the globe. Come here to Maine and work. Every industry is wide open based upon the needs that I've already kind of talked about. How we do it through coaching and networking. Coaching, resume coaching, interview coaching, employer introductions. So we're at the point now that we've gotten people hired at over 167 different companies in the state of Maine, from small mom and pop shops all the way to the federal government and everything in between, right? So based upon our success and our results in the relationships that we've built, we got a really good head of steam and some really good momentum going. What we found is that nothing against the national organizations, but what we found is that to solve workforce challenges, they have to be done at the local level. And that's done through the relationships that we've cultivated, right? So so that's the second portion of our program. There's the coaching piece, and then there's the networking piece. So I already mentioned how many people we've helped. So that's 350 people that can speak to any teammate that's coming through that could be working in, you name the industry, you name the discipline. So they got those folks to talk to, right? They also got peer mentors. We have people that we trust in our network that can help find homes, that can do VA lending, you name it, these relationships that we've built, which can really only happen when you stay in one place long enough, right? So that way, for the folks that have decided to make Maine their destination of choice, we can help them through our networking capability. Because the reason why it works now is that, pick a company that we're connected with. And like, for example, the Pest Management Association, once we're connected and I say, and all these folks here have access to the teammates that are coming to the state of Maine, right? Now, there's never an expectation for hiring, but it's always about best outcomes for the teammate and the employer, right? So then, theoretically, using this organization as an example, someone's coming here, there's opportunities for various positions in your organization. They express interest. I directly connect them with someone in your talent acquisition operation, and I let it run. And that's it. There's no charge. We're non-transactional. We don't charge employers. We don't charge teammates. And that's how I feel we're able to be so successful, because it's always about best outcomes for both. So I think that's really cool. I think that's really important. We do our best to meet the teammates where they're at. I mentioned before, the average teammate ranges between 10 and 25 years of service, but there's no job too big or too small. No branch that gets better preference than the other. We'll work with a person that served for 2 years or a person that served for 30, and we've helped everybody in between as well. It's important to make sure that at the end of the day, they're happy with what they're doing and what they want to do. And just how we measure our own success internally in the organization for our success is job within 60 days of arrival to the state. Most times people are hired, depending upon the employer, like I talked about earlier, before they even come here, right? That's the one metric. The other metric is that they stay in their first post-military job for at least 12 months, because statistically, when people get out, they bounce around for various reasons. Maybe they're unsatisfied. Maybe they're in over their head. Maybe it's a company culture thing, whatever that is, right? And they bounce around. We have a goal that they stay with for 12 months in their post-military job. So of those two factors, of all the people that apply for our program, we still maintain a 95% success rate. And that's based upon the hard work that we do, the relationships that we've cultivated. And these people that we're working with, our teammates, sometimes it's 3 months out. Most times it's at least 12 to 18 months out. Some are even 2-3 years out. So it's quite possible that me and my staff are working with these teammates for up to 2 years before they get out, right? To help them make that transition strategy. So that's kind of like the wave top about our organization, how we got started, why we're here, how it works, and what the end result could be. And we're really proud of what we do. I would encourage, my message to anybody that's seriously considering or has already decided to come to the state of Maine and they're a transitioning military, a veteran or military spouse, reach out to us. Let us help you. We're very good at what we do. We punch way above our weight class. And I'm just happy to be a part of the call today and to meet another great organization that's interested in hiring folks. I will mention that specific to my organization. And I know you're a national organization, but the folks that I would work with would be destined to come to the state of Maine and meet Maine's workforce needs.
Mhm. So how do our members who operate in Maine, how do they get involved?
Right, good question. So any members or employers that have locations in the state of Maine would reach out to me directly, randy.b@boosterroots.org, or go to our website and fill out contact us out. I would have a call with those individuals. I would explain how it works, and I would allow them access to a candidate portal that I maintain. It's essentially a hyperlink with a password. On this portal, lists all the people that we have that are, say, within 90 days of arrival to Maine, basic information about them. Their resume would be on there. And then anybody in the talent acquisition team could reach out to them directly without having to come back through me and schedule interviews and potentially hire an onboard. They could always reach back out to me if there was questions or fill in the blanks, or if there's no resume, like, hey, tell me more, and I could connect them. So that's one way. Another way, of course, in the same vein, I send that out every 2 weeks anyway to all the employers we're connected with. Another way would be to if there was like position descriptions or needs or information on the company, they would send that to me and I would spotlight their organization, and anybody that was interested, as long as I had a point of contact for Maine, I would send them right to them.
Awesome.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Good stuff.
So
Expect some calls.
yeah, yeah, it's great because one thing I've learned having gotten out of the service and living in Maine is that there's so much more out there that I would have never considered, and I always encourage my teammates to have open minds, as far as like new roles or new industries or things like that, because there's so much cool stuff that's out there, and they might just find, if they keep an open mind and are willing to learn, and stay open to opportunities, I think they don't limit themselves as much.
So we have about 5 minutes left. And I know there's been a ton of information. I feel like this could have been a 6-hour webinar. But Liz, can you try and hit on just more information on SkillBridge and what that is and how people can be involved in that too?
Absolutely. And I'm open for calls too afterwards. So this is going to be real fast. I'm going to send you all a link to this amazing video we have that we use to recruit a SkillBridge interest, and also military vets and spouses. That's all over. I'm just skipping over it real fast, but you can all look at your leisure and also use it in your own recruitment efforts. So anything NPMA has around military hiring, please use it and publish it widely so that it takes a village or a country, I don't know, whatever analogy. So real quick, so NPMA, so SkillBridge, the SkillBridge program goals are to minimize the amount of time between a military service member's separation, or the I won't say end because you never end being and serving, once they separate from the military branch and gaining civilian employment, for a lot of reasons, minimize unemployment, all the things. And so SkillBridge allows service members to participate in training with a civilian company within 180 days before they separate. Your companies can become direct partners and manage the relationships on your own. NPMA became a partner on our members' behalf to make it hopefully a little easier. So we manage the partnership, the paperwork. I'm like the matchmaker. I don't know how else to call it. We've had our program available for about a year, and about 65 service members have expressed interest. We've placed, as of today, today's been crazy. I've gotten 4 requests already. I think I'm up to like 21 placements. And as we mentioned earlier, Peston concluded one of their interns. So we're gaining speed in that. What it's about is the service member, if you say, yes, we're going to train them, you train them in general foundational pest control service technician skills. Once they're done with their training, it's up to the employer, say, to make an offer of employment, which is the ultimate goal. But they're not required, and the service member is not required to accept, or, for the employer to make an offer. I guess the benefits, while you're training this individual, they receive their military pay and benefits. They are still active duty, so they could potentially be called up. So there's some little nuances there, but generally speaking, they're there to learn. They're there to see if it's a good fit for them after service, and then hopefully gain employment with your company. There's a lot more information on our website, but so Randy mentioned that the organization Boots to Roots, you never know where they are in their process. So I'm working with some that are like, holy crap, I'm getting out now. What do I do? And so it's like quick, 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 quick. So I try to find somebody and make that go fast. And then there are others that are a year out or a year and a half out that are just super organized. So we can't predict, NPMA can't predict when, because people separate all the time. And so it's your superpower, if you really want to get involved, is to act quickly, as Randy mentioned. I act quickly, say, we want you, let me find you a place. And then if I reach out to you and if you're really interested, please try to make that decision really quickly, because they'll move on. Because they
Yeah.
want to know.
Yeah. Can I share something on SkillBridge real quick?
Yes.
So everything you're sharing is great and it's all true. And just for the folks listening as well, at a deeper level, by participating in SkillBridge and making yourself recognizable as a SkillBridge partner, you are providing an additional potential landing zone for people getting out of the military. I already so just frame it so dynamic. Now all of a sudden, hey, when this military member has been given authority to do a SkillBridge, unless that organization is properly recognized, it won't get approved and they can't come. So if you have a functional program from the human side of it, from the person side of it, everything, in addition to everything Liz just shared, they can get their family here and they can get settled while they're still getting a paycheck. Just imagine how much more focused they could be, right? And how much of a better employee they could be. I know that because I lived that. I did it.
Mhm.
Before I started my job at Boots to Roots, I was at a SkillBridge in the shipyard in Kittery, Maine, and I had full authority to do all my medical, prep for retirement, all these other things while I was still learning my new job. And I was fleeted up to be the program director as soon as I started my terminal leave, which stands for your final days of leave. And it worked as intended, right? So I just wanted to foot stomp that as well, to just share that other side of it.
Liz, I have a question for you as we're kind of wrapping up. So how do we get more people to know about SkillBridge? You know, are there things that we can do as a company? Is it something that just the military is supposed to be doing on their end? Like, how do we get, I know you had that video, but we obviously do work at a lot of veteran places. And I know SkillBridge is more people coming like as soon as they get back. But, you know, is there a way that we can promote this better to get more people to know that we're a part of it?
Absolutely. Well, I'll send to you and the New England team. We have brochures that are focused for the military, the service member, to learn about the program. So if you have contacts or access to bases, which is a tough thing because I'm learning more about that. You can't just walk in, which you shouldn't be able to. But if you have member, you know, who's on your team who has served, they might have friends. Tell everybody in your company about the program, because you never know. If you participate through the MPMA partnership, your company can recruit someone, send them to me, and they can request, I want to be placed with your company. That can happen. Get connected with pest vets. Yeah, just tell everyone. We're telling everyone as best we can as your national association through, you know, social media and all that stuff. But honestly, all of the SkillBridge interest has come through the SkillBridge website, which skillbridge.osd.gov. So they search for where they want to go, and then they reach out to me. But
Yeah.
please, yeah, tell your friends.
Yeah, that's good. I've also seen some other companies. I'm not saying you should do this either, or it's worthwhile, but I think when it comes down to, doing research and trying to find stuff, the easier you can make it, the better. I have seen other companies on their websites, for example, highlight the fact that they're a SkillBridge partner and create a very simple pathway for anybody that would be interested to click something and take them there. Because you guys know how it works. Unless you can grab some attention and make it easy, the company that makes it easier, because they're already experiencing all kinds of difficulties getting out of the service. So to experience it again with an employer, this is not directed at you. I'm just trying to give you some ideas that I've seen work elsewhere. That's very helpful, because that I would argue that would definitely increase your chances.
Okay, great. Any last minute thoughts?
For me, I just want to say thanks for having me. And thanks for everybody that's listening, Liz and Adam and Courtney and Taylor and the super normal AI taker. Uh, thanks for having me. Whether or not your folks come to Maine or whether or not they go somewhere else, I think any employer that's made a decision that they value what military members and their spouses bring to the table, you're not going to lose. Just keep an open mind, be patient, and try to gain more knowledge yourself as an employer about how you think you could best understand them and use them. And I go back to my previous comment about changing the mindset of what is a veteran in your mind. What does that look like? And if it's not aligned with what you want to have in your company, then maybe that's a you thing, right? But I appreciate being allowed to come here today. I'm very passionate about this. I think you have a great organization. I'm sure you're going to do phenomenally. And anybody that is interested in doing work through your company that's destined to come to Maine, please refer them to us, because in addition to all the work that you're going to be doing with them, there's other things that we can help with that will make them better employees and more focused.
Great, thank you.
I just want to say thank you, Randy. I've learned a lot from you today. And again,
Thanks.
I'm continuing to learn something new every day, and we'll certainly share this widely with our membership. So thank you for everything.
No, my pleasure. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you both, and thank you everyone for attending today or watching it on the recorded side. Again, we have our next one coming up in February. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out. Again, thank you one last time for Liz and Randy for all of your insights today. It was very, very helpful. I appreciate it greatly. Other than that, everyone have a great day.
All right. Thanks all.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Thanks, everybody.